You ever get one of those texts that just feels like a trap? That's what this was. A Friday morning, half awake, sipping shitty office coffee, when my phone buzzes. Eli, you busy this weekend? Eli, the guy from work, who somehow always smells good, who always finds a way to stand too close when he talks to you, who calls everyone man, but says it to me a little differently. We're not friends exactly, more like flirt-adjacent coworkers. Just enough banter to blur the line, but not enough to push it. Me, not really. Why? Eli, I need a fake boyfriend. Like, urgently. I stared at the screen for a solid 10 seconds before typing back. Me. Excuse me? What followed was a series of rapid-fire texts explaining that his dad's 60th birthday was this weekend up in Napa. Big family thing. Everyone was going to be there. And apparently, over Christmas, Eli had told his very Catholic, very nosy family that he was dating someone. Someone named Drew. A name suspiciously close to mine. And now, he told me later over lunch, they're expecting to meet you. Or, you know him. You lied and used my name? I said, trying not to laugh. He winced. Only kinda. I said Drew with a D. You're Jude. Totally different. You realize I'm the only Jude you know. Exactly. It's fate. No, I said, shaking my head. It's a mess. But then he leaned in, elbows on the table, eyes locked on mine. Please, man, I just need you to come up for the weekend. Smile. Pretend to hold my hand. Sit through a few awkward toasts. I'll pay for everything. Room, food, gas. I hesitated. I should have said no. I should have run in the opposite direction. But there was something in the way he looked at me, a mix of desperation and hope, and something softer underneath it all. And, honestly, part of me was curious about what it would feel like to be his, even if it was fake. All right, I said, sighing, but you're buying me at least 2 bottles of wine. He grinned, like I'd just saved his life. Deal. We left early Saturday morning, his old Jeep rattling down the freeway with windows cracked and his playlist going full acoustic vibes. I pretended not to notice how he kept stealing glances at me while he drove. You nervous? I asked. Terrified, he said without missing a beat. You? About lying to your entire extended family? Nah. Feels totally normal. He laughed, and for a second it felt easy. Then we pulled into the long driveway of a sprawling vineyard estate, and my stomach dropped. You didn't tell me your dad was rich. Did I forget that part? He said, smirking. There were already cars lining the gravel, people in linen shirts and summer dresses milling around with glasses of champagne. You ready? He asked, turning off the engine. I looked at him. At the way his hair curled slightly at the edges, at the hint of nervous sweat on his neck, at the way he was biting the inside of his cheek. Yeah, I said, reaching over to squeeze his hand. Because if we were doing this, we were doing it right. Let's go meet the parents. And that's how I ended up walking into a vineyard in designer sunglasses I borrowed from Eli, pretending to be the boyfriend of a guy I've had a low-key crush on for over a year. What could possibly go wrong? The moment we stepped out of the car, the performance began. Eli casually draped his arm over my shoulders like we'd done this 100 times. I leaned in just enough to make it look real. Close, easy, natural. My heart was pounding, though. I hadn't even met his dad yet, and already I was sweating. The backyard was straight out of a wedding catalog. White canopies, string lights, live jazz trio in the corner, and more expensive wine flowing than at any bar I could afford on my own. It was overwhelming. And then I saw them. Here we go, Eli muttered, spotting a group of relatives waving him over. He plastered on a smile, tugged me along like we were glued together. Just remember, you're Jude, you work in marketing, and we met at a mutual friend's party. You've been dating me for about 6 months. We're exclusive, but it's still new, And you're allergic to walnuts. Don't forget that. My aunt loves to bake. Wait, I'm allergic now? Only if you want to survive this weekend. Before I could protest, we were in the middle of the group. People hugging him, patting his back, pulling him in every direction. It was like watching a politician work a crowd. He knew every name, every cousin, every wine preference. But when he introduced me, his hand never left my lower back. "This is Jude," he said, his voice confident but soft. "My boyfriend." There was a second, a beat of silence before the smiles returned. And I mean big smiles. The kind that were too wide, too polite. Everyone took turns hugging me, grilling me with casual but not really questions. "So how'd you two meet? Are you serious? Serious or just, do you like dogs? Eli loves dogs. Do you drink? We have some really nice reds from last year." I answered everything like I was auditioning for a role. I played the charming, supportive boyfriend. I laughed at Eli's stories. I squeezed his hand when someone made a passive-aggressive comment, and I kissed his cheek, once, just to sell it. But then came him, the dad. He was tall, graying at the temples, with sharp features and a presence that filled the patio the second he walked out. Eli stiffened next to me, and just like that, the energy shifted. "Dad?" Eli said, straightening up. "Eli," his father replied, his voice warm but cautious. Then his eyes landed on me. "And you must be Jude." I stepped forward, offered my hand. "Nice to meet you, sir." He took it, shook once, firm. "I've heard a lot about you." All lies, I wanted to say. But instead I just smiled. "All good, I hope." There was a pause, the kind that feels like someone's sizing you up. Then he smiled faintly, nodded. "Welcome. I'm glad Eli brought you." And just like that, the pressure in my chest eased a little. Later, after speeches and far too much wine, Eli and I found ourselves alone in the garden behind the main house, lit by those same hanging lights. The music was a distant hum, laughter echoing from the patio. We were sitting on a wooden bench, far enough away to breathe. "You're really good at this," he said, glancing sideways at me. "At what?" "This." He gestured vaguely. "The whole pretending to date me thing." I looked at him, the curve of his jaw in the low light, the way his shirt clung just slightly at the chest. "Yeah, well, I'm a method actor at heart." He chuckled, then went quiet. It's weird, being here like this. I thought it would feel fake or forced, but it doesn't. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. After a long pause, he added, "Thanks for coming, seriously." "Of course," I said. "It's not every day I get to crash a rich guy's birthday party and pretend to be the perfect boyfriend." He laughed again, but it faded quickly. Then he looked at me, really looked at me. "What if we didn't pretend tomorrow?" The words hit harder than they should have. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we stopped acting?" And just like that, the air between us thickened. I didn't answer right away, because what do you even say to something like that? "What if we stopped acting?" Sounded like a throwaway line, but the way Eli said it, quietly, carefully, like it wasn't just a joke, told me he'd thought about it. I looked at him, trying to read his face, but it was hard to tell in the dim garden light. His expression was neutral, almost casual, but his knee was bouncing the tiniest bit. "You serious?" I asked. He shrugged. "I don't know, maybe. It's just this whole day you've been great. With my family, with me, it felt real, easier than I thought it'd be." "Yeah, well, I make a great fake boyfriend," I said, trying to keep it light. "I'm starting to wonder if the fake part's even necessary." My stomach did this slow roll, like I'd just gone over a hill too fast. I didn't know if I should feel flattered or freaked out. Probably both. I mean, he added quickly, "It doesn't have to mean anything. Just maybe we don't overthink it." "Eli," I said carefully, "this whole thing started with a lie to your family." I know. And now you're saying, let's maybe turn the lie into something real? He nodded slowly. I know it's insane, but just think about it. What if this didn't end Sunday? I looked away, out at the vineyard, all gold-lit rows of grapes and ivy-covered fences. Everything was quiet, except for the faint sound of laughter back at the house and the buzz of summer bugs in the air. And maybe it was the wine, or the heat, or maybe it was just Eli, nervous and hopeful and real in a way I hadn't seen him before. But something in me said, why not? So I said, okay. He blinked. Okay. We'll stop pretending, but only if you promise not to pull some weird retreat the second we're back in the city move. I won't, he said, a little too quickly. And you tell your dad the truth eventually. His smile faded slightly, but he nodded. Yeah, I will. Just let me get through this weekend. I nodded. Then, before either of us could talk ourselves out of it, Eli leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't the kind of kiss that rewrites history. It was better. It was soft. Slow. Like a first page instead of the last. When we pulled apart, he didn't say anything. Just rested his forehead against mine for a second before murmuring, "Thanks, Jude." Of course, the peace didn't last, because as we walked back toward the house, still buzzing from that kiss, we heard a voice behind us. Well, that's unexpected. We turned. It was Eli's older brother. Shit. Eli froze. His hand, which had been casually resting against my back, dropped instantly. I turned and got my first real look at the guy, taller than Eli, broader too, dressed like he'd walked straight out of a Brooks Brothers ad, sharp, but not stiff. The kind of man who looked like he knew he was the most successful son in the family and didn't mind making sure everyone else knew it too. "Zach," Eli said, his voice a little too high, a little too quick. "Didn't know you were, out here." Zach crossed his arms, raising a brow. Clearly. Nice performance, by the way. The way he said performance made my stomach twist. "You've got something to say. Say it," Eli said, trying to sound tough. But I could tell he was rattled, and I didn't like it. Zach's eyes flicked to me, then back to his brother. "You told Dad you had a boyfriend. You didn't say anything about it being Jude from the office." I blinked. "Wait, you know me?" "Of course," Zach said, like it was obvious. "You've been on the Zoom calls. Marketing guy, right?" "Right," I said slowly. Zach looked back at Eli. "So is this real, or are you just playing house because you're scared of Dad?" The question cut deeper than I expected. For both of us. Eli took a breath. "It's real." Zach tilted his head. "Is it?" Eli didn't flinch this time. "Yeah, it is." Zach held his stare for another second before shrugging. "All right, hope you know what you're doing." Then he turned and walked off, just like that. Eli let out a breath, hands on his hips. "Shit," I stepped closer. "That was not great," he said. "Zach's the golden child. Dad listens to him more than anyone. If he thinks I'm faking this, it's going to be a thing." He didn't seem like he was going to blow it up. "No, but he's going to watch. He always watches." We stood in silence for a second, the weight of that moment settling on us. Then Eli looked at me and said, "Still sure you want to be part of this mess?" "Dude," I said, reaching for his hand. "I was in when you lied about me being allergic to walnuts. Everything else is just extra." He laughed weakly, but the tension eased a little. That night, we stayed in the guest house behind the vineyard. It was just the two of us. A king-sized bed. One bathroom. And a whole lot of nervous energy. We didn't talk much as we got ready for bed. We both pretended not to notice when we changed with our backs to each other. I crawled under the covers first, pulling them to my chest, while Eli sat on the edge for a moment, staring at the floor. "You all right?" I asked. He looked over his shoulder. "Yeah, just, this is weird, right?" "It's a little weird." He nodded. Then, after a second, he climbed in beside me. We lay there in the dark, not touching, not talking. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, but charged. Then Eli whispered, "Thanks again for doing this." I turned slightly toward him, my voice low. "You've thanked me like 5 times. "I know," he said. I didn't realize how much I needed this until I had it." My heart stuttered a little. "Needed what?" "You. This. Someone in my corner." I didn't say anything, just slowly reached for his hand under the blanket. He didn't let go. And just like that, we fell asleep, still pretending, maybe, but pretending a little less. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight bleeding through the curtains and Eli's hand still wrapped loosely around mine. He was asleep, breathing softly, turned slightly toward me like he'd been inching closer during the night. His hair was a mess, and the blanket was half off him, revealing a sliver of skin at his waist where his t-shirt had ridden up. I could have stayed like that for a while, just looking, but I was too aware of where we were, of everything we were pretending, and everything we maybe weren't anymore. I carefully slipped my hand out from his and got up, stretching as quietly as I could. I made coffee in the little kitchenette while scrolling through my messages. My best friend had sent 3 texts asking if I was dead. I'd told her I was at a wine thing with Eli. She'd responded with exactly 5 wine glass emojis and a "do not fall in love." Too late, maybe? By the time Eli stumbled out of bed, hair wild, shirt creased, eyes squinting at the sunlight, I had 2 mugs of coffee ready. "You're a saint," he mumbled, taking one. "Didn't want your family thinking I was just a pretty face," I said. He snorted. "They already think that, but now they'll know you make coffee too." We sat on the patio outside the guest house in quiet comfort, sipping coffee, watching birds move through the vineyard. The tension from last night lingered, but it felt different now. Less panic, more anticipation. "You know," Eli said, setting his mug down, "I used to imagine what it would be like to bring a real boyfriend here." I looked over at him. "Yeah? Yeah, I thought maybe if I could just get through one family thing without lying, it'd feel like I wasn't 2 different people all the time." "You ever come close before?" "Nope. Closest I got was a guy who made me leave his place before sunrise, so his roommates wouldn't see." "Sounds charming," he smirked. "It was college. Everyone was a coward, including me." I nudged his shoulder. "Well, now you're here, with me. Your brave, devastatingly handsome fake boyfriend." He grinned. "The bravest, and arguably the handsomest." We lapsed into silence for a moment. Then Eli said, "I think Zach's gonna test us today." "Oh, joy. He'll probably corner you, ask weird questions, try to catch us slipping." I sighed. "Okay, well, remind me, how did we meet again?" "Friend of a friend's rooftop party," Eli recited. "You complimented my jacket. I made fun of your drink order." "What was my drink?" "Vodka cranberry." I made a face. "Wow, how dare you?" He laughed. "It worked, didn't it?" Sure enough, Zach found me that afternoon, alone, on the back patio, sipping rosé like I belonged there. He sat down next to me, folded his arms. "So, Jude," he started, casual. "How'd you and Eli meet?" I gave him the same practice smile I'd used on Eli's aunts the day before. "Rooftop party. I liked his jacket. He didn't like my drink." Zach smirked. "Right. That jacket he refuses to admit he stole from my closet." I blinked. "Wait, he did steal it?" "Allegedly." He sipped his drink. "How long have you 2 been seeing each other?" 6 months. "Exclusive?" I raised a brow. "What's with the interrogation?" He shrugged. "Just protective, I guess." "Of your brother or your family reputation?" Zach looked at me. Really looked. "Maybe both." I leaned forward slightly. "Look, I get it. You don't believe it. You think he made this up to piss off your dad or avoid questions. But I'm not just some pawn in a stunt. Eli matters to me." Zach studied me for a long second. Then he nodded. "All right," he said. "That's the first real thing you've said." He stood up, straightened his blazer. "You might actually be good for him." And with that, he walked away. I found Eli on the side lawn talking to his cousins. I caught his eye and gave him a subtle thumbs up. He smiled, relieved, I think. That night, during the dinner speech, his dad toasted Eli and his partner Jude like we were a given. People clapped. His aunt cried, and Eli reached for my hand under the table, squeezing once, tight. We were faking it. But we weren't. Not anymore. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, and the string lights were still glowing faintly over the empty patio, Eli and I ended up back on the bench from our first kiss. Same spot, totally different air between us now. He stretched his legs out, head tilted back, wine glass dangling from his fingers. "So," he said, "you really told Zach off?" I was very diplomatic, I said, smirking. "But yeah, he was trying to figure out if this thing was real." "And?" "I might have told him I cared about you." He glanced at me, startled. "You said that?" "Yeah." Silence. A long one. Then, "Did you mean it?" I looked at him, and it didn't feel like a performance anymore, not even a little. I didn't have to think about it. I did. Eli didn't say anything. He just reached over and took my hand again. It was different now, less about selling an illusion, more about grounding himself. Like he needed to hold on to something real in a world full of pretending. We sat like that for a long time. Eventually, he whispered, "I don't think I can go back to how it was before." "You don't have to," I said. "You just have to stop hiding." He nodded, slowly. "It's not just about them, though. It's about me. About actually letting someone in." I squeezed his hand. "Then start with me." The next morning, everything felt lighter. The performance was over, but strangely, no one seemed surprised. We didn't tone it down. Eli kept his arm around me at brunch. I kissed his temple in front of his aunt. When his dad pulled me aside to say thank you for making Eli happy, I realized something. They knew. Maybe not the full story, not the fake to real transformation, but they'd known Eli was holding something back for years. And now, whatever he was holding, whoever, was out in the open, and that was enough. When we packed the car that afternoon, Eli didn't rush. He lingered, standing barefoot on the porch like he wasn't ready to leave yet. I loaded the last of our stuff into the trunk and turned to him. "You ready?" He looked at me for a long second. "Yeah," he said. "But one more thing first." He stepped forward and kissed me. Not a shy one. Not a thank you kiss. This one was different. A statement. A promise. When we finally pulled away, he whispered, "No more pretending." We drove home with the windows down, his hand resting on my thigh the entire time. And that's how pretending to be someone's boyfriend turned into actually falling for him. Worst kept secret of that weekend? It was never really fake. Not even a little.